Hello from Portland, Maine. My name is Greg Bem, and this is the fourth of four readings that are drifts that are part of City Drift 2014, taking place in Portland, Maine, throughout the city. I am joined by Mark Anderson, who is in Spokane, Washington. He is part of this series of drifts that all bring Washington writers live, as well as recorded, into Portland, Maine through digital technology. This particular instance is exciting because it's the last one, and it is Mark, who is very exciting. But before I go on to introduce him and ask him to read, just going to mention a few things about the event as a whole. It will continue as it started yesterday, Friday the 19th of September, 2014. It will continue for the rest of today, Saturday, and for most of tomorrow, Sunday. The drifts are pieces of art, they are installations, they are conversations, they are interactions, they are engagements with the environment in countless ways. There have been some very unique presentations and some very unique encounters and engagements that I've seen happening all around the city, both during the waking hours as well as late into the evening. Even one that involved last night a bunch of people dancing to Ace of Base on the hood of a parked car, which was pretty exciting to watch. Um, in addition to the things that are happening through the internet, such as this, there are many events in real places, tangible places, including Space Gallery and Space Gallery Annex, as well as here where I am, the wonderful media venue Zero Station. And for those of you who are not familiar with where Zero Station is and where I'm sitting, it is located on Anderson Street in the Bayside area of Portland, not too far from all of the newer breweries and not too far from, well, anything really, as it is a small city. I am excited to announce Mark Anderson. Oh, but before I do, one more thing. citydrift.org has all of the information and links to social media, to scheduling for this year's event, to descriptions of all of the drifts, to ephemera and other artifacts, digital artifacts that will be stored as time moves on and we move into new instances of the event. As I'm sure we will, because this is the third one. The last two were in Detroit and Bushwick, Brooklyn. So, that being said, let me finally get to Mr. Mark Anderson. Mr. Mark Anderson I've known for a few years now. He is a poet primarily, but does many things and hangs out in many cool places. I have encountered him in several different spaces in the Northwest, and I look forward to seeing him again. His really awesome event in Spokane is called Broken Mike, and that has been running for around 4 years, which is a long time, and it's every single Wednesday in Spokane, currently at Nito Burrito. And the other thing that I wanted to mention about him is that his latest chapbook is limited edition, a name that is quite appropriate considering the nature of City Drift and considering the nature of, yeah, Mark is showing his book there. Thank you, Mark. Limited edition chapbook. So a name very appropriate for City Drift in general, as well as the live stream, despite the fact that this is being recorded and will be available until someone yells at me to take it down off YouTube. We are dealing with a temporal and very contextual experience here. Mark, I'm excited to hear you read some of your writing, your creative writing, as well as afterwards talk to you a little bit about the writing and the reading, as well as your experiences and your relationship with spaces and environments. So without further ado, Mark, what do you have for us?
Hi, how's it going? So I have a bunch of poems here from various chapbooks, starting with limited edition and sort of moving back in time to this chapbook. this chapbook is not a coming-of-age story, to edgy, heartfelt poems of true conviction, to one from several years ago called Failure Greater Than Success. And so I'm sort of excited to kind of just move back in time with these pieces. Should I just start on with a poem then? Alright, this poem is called Ode to Static. Fireflies swarm behind electric glass as we sit, forgetting how to speak. Our words, like 10,000 wings covered in molasses, struggling to break free from a black amber screen, igniting for brief moments, sometimes even shining through. And if you're wondering what that poem looks like, it's one of those funny ones where it's just like all over the page, and if you turn it this way, it almost looks like a firefly. If you turn it this way, it almost looks like static. So I was kind of excited about that. Alright, and this next one, I'm only gonna read these two poems from limited edition, and I'm gonna move on to a different chapbook. This next one is called Washing the Dishes. I have to go find it first, but that's what it is called. Come on, Mark, you find this poem. Pages, okay. Washing the dishes. Turn the water on too hot. Squeeze in too much soap. Pretend you are drowning. Cloak your wounds in the yellow decay. Scrub it all away. Fill the sink with plates and knives. Scrub it all away until the past is so sparkling clean your friends smile and eat off it. Not a white tooth in the house when the sun rises on this hungover fortress of youth. The lazy yellow fire assaulting sweaty lines on foreheads, still almost asleep. These self-portraits you plunge beneath sunken history shrivel until they don't look like you. Here with the plates, removing what is left when a meal is done. The future will take shape when the residue is gone. The morning will come to you, esophagus purging the acrid result of honey down a stale ceramic bowl. Hiding your face, sick with shame at what your obsession meant, what they knew but couldn't see. But at this moment, you're here, parting what's cut from the blade, believing in hidden knives below the dirty water of this stainless sink. You know they can cut you. You believe even you can be washed clean. And so that's what I'm reading from limited edition. These are new poems. I have 5 copies of that chapbook left. And we're just going to move back in time a little. This next book is called This Chapbook is Not a Coming-of-Age Story. And almost all of these poems took shape in April of 2013. This poem is called Rabbits Don't Run Races. They Run for Their Lives. Words empty as the wind are best left unsaid, I said, to the back of her sun-bleached curls on the par 3 called Painted Hills. But the hills weren't painted. They were just rich. I felt smart for quoting Homer because we were in 8th grade and she hit the golf ball saying she didn't mind small talk, all under that big ball of fire or fusion in the summer, hydrogen and helium making love or fucking or killing each other, depending on how you interpret your nuclear reactions. That's what I learned about in chemistry that year, on the 2nd floor room tucked into the corner of the school, where Mr. B was famous for dropping a bowling ball on the desk of any student caught sleeping. A strike of electricity, and everyone's laughing, and a child's eyes go on with adrenaline. Fight or flight like a rabbit skittering under a rose bush. White fur dyed red. No one bothered or was brave enough to ask why these students fell asleep. No teacher stuck their hand down that hollow. just the fall of a bowling ball and the end of an already stifled dream. Um, I'm going to read one more poem from this chapbook before I move on to the next one. This is called When I Gave My Name to Orion's Belt. The rain keeps me up, pattering its little fists against my window. I part the curtains, and the clouds draw back enough to let one star through, tunneling its way billions of miles to me. It takes me back an impossible journey, through this night, where sex puns hovered over my head at Baby Bar, where the rain turned off just long enough for me to sneak home. It takes me back past moving into the city, past the first kiss that melted like the touch of a cloud on skin, past the icy streets threatening my life every winter. It pulls me to a different time, out in the country, where I drove home with my wipers broken in a spring downpour. It takes me to the summer I learned about sex puns, to the moment I learned about loving from a distance. She was going away on a hot August night, while dragonflies watched over us from above, and the night fell to sleep heavy on far-off Mica Peak. She asked what I was thinking. Those stars tunneling are my stars, I told her. That constellation that looks like a fox burrowing under the sky, that's my constellation. Wherever you go, he's tunneling to me, like you. You can remember me anywhere you go, can't you? And that's my last poem from this chapbook. Moving further back in time, this book is sort of a compilation of poems from the couple years before it, and it's called Edgy Heartfelt Poems of True Conviction. And Greg looks like he's saying something. What's up, Greg?
Sorry, Mark, continue, please. I'm
Sure.
I'm just doing some technical stuff. I'm listening though.
Totally. This poem is called Not Simply the Dark. I turn on the light to bury the terror. Soon, I am taken again by a dream. A beautiful girl sings poetry about bathing in malt liquor and confusing money with love. It has nothing to do with why my lighter is on, or how I live as though I will never die, or how I worry that pleasure will never be enough. I wake again, and the light is still on. I cannot bring myself to turn it off, despite the dreams, and this is not simply a fear of the dark. What I bury with the dark will one day be unearthed. I know why the light is there. I know what I am trying to do. And the poems in this book are really short, so I'm going to read 3 of them, I think. This poem is called The Tin Man. The rusty old Tin Man waited years uncounted and saw untold horrid things. He is lucky to have been rescued at all. Not even he knows if he can die, or would have, with his pale sentience growing more unmoving with every decade as the years gathered like particles of dust at his feet. As soon as they oiled up his joints, he danced a jig, sang a song. He'd forgiven the world for everything. That's how you can tell it wasn't real life. And just one more about another mythical figure, if the Tin Man could be called a mythical figure. That one was about a mythical figure. But this one is more mythic figure. This poem is called The Minotaur. They act as if the Minotaur chose his labyrinth, as if the labyrinth cared for the monster, as if nothing died when he died, as if he did not have a human heart, as if it was not human blood, as if when he fell there was no pity left in the world, as if he was not only doing his job, as if he had not suffered and was not searching for the exit as well. Um, and now we're going to go back one more chapbook to perhaps the beginning of time. So this chapbook is called Failure Greater Than Success, which could be my favorite chapbook title I've had so far. And this poem is called Tulips. Anansi tied a web around me, and now I'm stories with no fact to them. But it's all symbolic, believe me. When I say, for the third time he entered the grain elevator, and now he found it to be full of nothing but tulips. I do not simply mean that the grain had been replaced by a trial or something, due to some trial or something. The tulips are useless. Maybe he wished for a full grain elevator, but didn't specify with grain. Then he walks around town, giving the tulips to girls, putting them to the best use he can. In me, too, there is something very like those tulips, wished for and not wished for, but I'm using it as best I can. Greg, so I was thinking about doing one more poem, just a little bit longer. Does that sound like a good length to you?
Yes, that's perfect. And we can talk for a little bit, and then that'll be it.
Wonderful. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna read. Actually, I'm gonna change what I was gonna read the last second. I want to read this one. This one is called "Begging They Might Still Be Called Men," and all right. After 2 beers at this bar, we're all the same. Behind me, 3 men talk of history. They laugh, they cry, they hang their heads in shame. That rough house, I can't stand what we became there, all of us, that goddamn night when D. After 2 beers at this bar, we're all the same. Broke that asshole's nose. Then his brothers came. Nobody in that house backed D up, we. They laugh, they cry, they hang their heads in shame. Just left and let them beat him. I still name us as guilty for his death. Could have been anybody. After 2 beers at this bar, we're all the same. But that night it was him. How can we claim to be men after that? There's no mercy. They laugh, they cry, they hang their heads in shame. For our souls. Each lost in life with no one to blame. 4 men pleading with God, and one was me. After 2 beers at this bar, we're all the same. We laugh, we cry, we hang our heads in shame. So those are my poems.
Okay, I'm muted. Yeah, thank you very much. Those are awesome. So, and what were the years that those books all came out, just out of curiosity?
Limited edition came out this year, so 2014, 2013, 2012, 2010. Or maybe this is 2011. Maybe it's an every year thing. I don't know. When did you come out, book? Yeah, this one's 2011. So, one each year. Hello? Hello? I think something weird's happening with our connection here. Is it me? Greg? Hello, hello? So I'm not getting anything on this screen. Sure hope you are. Um,
Good. Are you still there, Mark?
oh, hi, there you are. Can you hear me?
Yeah, guess what? The battery literally just died, and I just plugged it in, and I'm somehow still here.
Victory. Awesome.
Hold on one second. Let me see if I can get it back on the big screen here. And are you there?
I am here.
Okay. It looks like the audio isn't. That's okay. The audio is here, at least on the computer. Um, so yeah, what? Just quickly again, what were those years for the books?
Starting from this year, they go back one each year.
Ah, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Now, hold on, it's kind of like going in and out on my end a little bit. But this gentleman here, Keith, who runs this space, has a question for you.
Hey, Keith.
Not get on, but we can hear it here at least.
Yeah. So my question is to both of you, because I have no concept of this contemporary. Let's just call it poetry, for lack of a. What avenues do people? Is that done? A lot of it done online, or is it done through social media now, or is it through printed matter, or what are the ways you guys, you people?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you? Is there a preferred, way to spread it?
Mm-hmm. Mark, do you want to talk about? Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, sure. I think poetry has branched into a really big thing, like in a very very diverse thing in how people spread it. Like personally, me, I do a lot of live readings. Like that's that thing on Wednesdays, Broken Mic. Like 70 plus people gather at Nido Burrito and 20 to 30 read poetry to each other every week.
Sorry, is that
Um,
being streamed? You stream it at the time, or no?
Wait, what was that?
Is that those poetry readings? Are they streamed live or anything, or?
No,
No.
those are strictly live events, but I also do an online open mic. I was about to um, talk about there is a live stream thing called URIRL, You're in Real Life. And that's on a little bit of a hiatus right now, but I'm getting close to being able to bring it back. I'm really excited about that. And there's a bunch of poetry on the internet to really like lots of different ways. Like there's a bunch of internet poetry on like Tumblr and Twitter, and people sort of forming these communities on there. There's all these online magazines. There's also like message boards that people write poetry on and then sort of critique each other, and that's a completely different online culture of poetry that goes back to like way back. And so there's lots of different things. I do a lot of traveling and reading personally, and I also try to do some poetry on the internet. A lot of performance poetry finds its way on YouTube. That's how performance poets tend to interact with the online poetry. Yeah.
I agree. There's a lot of variation and diversity in terms of how people are sharing their work. I think though one of the major things I have this conversation a lot is what is poetry today in general. Like traditionally we know it as lines of verse or lines on a page, but as we continue to explore new media and have a different medium for our presentation, it changes. And so a lot of people that you might read a tweet and say, hey, that's like something out of a poem, or that's poetry. But I think people are getting kind of sick of the word. It certainly is poetic, but I don't know if people are identifying with a lot of the new creativity in the same way they were like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so there's, in terms of definitions, it's all over the place.
So if you were to remove the internet as a media to spread or whatever, is there still, does there seem to be a I don't know, a rebirth in any way of the spoken word.
Yeah, Mark, you know a lot of people in Eastern Washington that do, I would say, do some pretty good spoken word or some good traditional or more conventional poetry, right?
Yeah. Um, at the same time that the internet is really like revitalizing poetry in some ways and kind of challenging the boundaries of what it can be. There's several different sort of more spoken movements like the poetry slam, like the open mic movements that uh, are really contributing to a lot of new, fresh ideas about poetry and new, fresh, good poetry happening. So, and I like trying to make those things sort of mesh to some extent, like the spoken with the online.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of my biggest concerns is how do you stay as an organizer and a curator or a participant in any of this? How do you stay relevant to crowds that are moving away from art that used to be popular or forms of artistic and creative expression that used to be popular and still is with a lot of people, but also incorporate them and make them feel inclusive? And I think that streaming or at least being digitally present is a huge part of that conversation and that inclusivity. Particularly with young people, there are a lot of young people that like talking like less than 18 right now, that are still in high school, that are in middle school or whatever, that don't really, they might not identify with the same things that people in their 20s or higher identify with. And they also have very unique ways of sharing things. For example, anonymity is very popular in youth culture today, as it is in a lot of other cultures. But being able to have a Twitter account where you kind of create a persona, the same way you might have created a persona via a journal 100 years ago, is very popular. And so if you go on, if a person has a phone or a person has a computer and they want to be poetic, but in a very specific way, a way that might be private, a way that is almost could be voyeuristic in public, that possibility is not only possible and present, but it's very frequent in its use. And I think a lot of people have access to new power and new freedoms and new understandings of their creative limits, or how the limits have been extended because they have access to these new platforms and these new media. Which means there's a lot of experimentation, and as my friend calls it, subcultures are just like exploding. You know, before you might have been able to label like goths and punks and you know, the more like the square, like preppy kind of people, but like that whole range of interest and culture is really blooming right now. And in good and bad ways. There are lots of people. You know, I could probably create a poetry movement based on this light alone that could last who knows how long, maybe a few days.
With the battery or the phone?
Exactly. Precisely.
As long as the battery lasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Greg knows this, but one of the main reasons I ask is I have a daughter who's very much into the written word, and she's into, I think, more performing it.
Mm-hmm.
And but they all start as written text, and the idea of being off on your own, but then you have access to, you know, potentially thousands or millions. That's such a weird. Seems like a weird. I don't know, circumstance.
Yeah.
Like you're off on your own working, but then you know what? I can put this on this platform and it may reach all these people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's being anonymous, but it, by the way, the thing now, even in middle school, is genderless too. So
right.
You may know that. Like people do not want to be limited to a gender specifically.
Yeah.
It doesn't really mean they're going to change, but they just, you know, it's very interesting.
Yeah, so that is like understanding the dynamic between what you write and then where it's going has been something that I've been really interested in. Mark, you have actual chapbooks. I've created ebooks before. Performance-wise, I've gone from performing in public and doing a reading, a live reading, to doing readings, quote unquote readings, in chat boxes in video games. Actually, there's one instance where I did a reading of a very famous beat poet, Gregory Corso, has a poet called Bomb. And there was a game that came out, a free game online called Bombermine, which was based off the old Bomberman game. Only it has 1,000 people playing in one single game at once and one chat room. So I read the poem, basically typed it out line for line, or copy and pasted, and that was my public piece. And then I got yelled at over and over again and called a lot of profane words. But I think there's lots of new ways to explore that original idea of getting up on stage and presenting, or getting in front of an audience. I think that's changing a lot. And we have this too, you know, like the three of us standing here in this digital space, and yet the potential for it to be seen or not seen is still there as well, which is interesting. Mark, do you have any comments on that?
Not really. I think we're in a great place as far as sharing any information. Like, and I think it's really cool that there's just so many ways to share stuff, and I feel like social media has really opened up some really big opportunities for poets. Like one of the people who's kind of gotten famous in the online world, Steve Rogenbuck, has this quote about how, like, you know, if Walt Whitman had been alive during the time of, you know, Tumblr and Twitter, like, he's so excited. He'd just be going hard on that, because, like, poets have always been about, like, trying to get their word out there, and now you can do it so instantaneously. You know, you've never really been able to do that before.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Hello, people.
Hi.
Hi, this is my mom, Lori.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Katie.
Hi,
Oh.
nice to meet you. I'm Mark.
And this was Keith, who's asking you questions earlier. Sorry, they're looking over there because there's a big projection, but the audio is coming from here, so there's a strange dynamic.
Oh, wow. Can I see the projection?
You can, yeah. If you talk, you'll see yourself.
Hi, Mark. Oh, yeah. Wow, that's cool.
We have all these speakers, but it's coming out of a little laptop.
Compact.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you want to read one more piece since there's a new audience?
Sure. One more piece.
Actually, bear with me for 1 second. I'm gonna try to get the speaker system back online. This worked the last time. I don't know if it's gonna work this time. No. I'm Ends. Do we have it?
All right.
No. Oh, still from the computer. It's okay. Yeah, go for it.
Darn it. Sure, let's do one more poem. Question is, from which chapbook? Let's go newer. Let's go a new poem. This poem is about Christmas. It's titled Christmas. It's from my newest chapbook. At Aunt Jen's house, the Christmas tree is so tall, the top of it bends over on the ceiling. But that's okay. We put the angel in front, and tinsel flows down like the tails of wishing stars. And I get to play Santa and pass out presents for the whole family. And there are presents living in the tree. I almost miss them. And when we drive home, the stereo in Dad's truck plays "I'll Be Home for Christmas." But he changes the station with his finger and his calluses, as if he doesn't even notice, like he's done it 1,000 times before. There's no snow. I don't know what you call it, but it's not a white Christmas. Dad says there's never any snow in Oklahoma. You have to shake your shoes for scorpions in the desert. Even on the Christmases he remembers coming down the stairs in the house he grew up in the dark before the rest of the family woke up. It barely feels like Christmas now that I can spell it out. The toys don't even feel like toys anymore. I play the same games, but I feel like I'm acting, and they're all I know how to ask for. Mom says Dad's always a Grinch anymore. Why don't we just cancel Christmas? I pretend I'm other people in the back seat, and now I feel them hurting. So I pretend I'm the Christmas tree. I'm the biggest Christmas tree in the world. I can see everyone. I have a present for each of them. I understand Santa. The real presents are ones I can't give. They can't be wrapped. I am shrinking until I cannot see myself. I am the tiniest Christmas tree in the world. I can see the world slowly replacing itself as my presents unfold, and everyone wants to stuff them back in their packaging to open them again. I bend with even the slightest wind because it needs to be told it matters. Mom says I was the quietest baby. You could close your eyes and forget I was there. But my parents never forgot me. In the back seat, I am unfolding. Wind wraps the truck and whispers. We are going home. We are all unfolding together.
Wow. Thank you, Mark. Mark, we are set to move on to other programmatical things and drift along. Do you have any any final words for this recording regarding your experience and maybe some words of
Thanks for
advice?
having me. I've had a fun time. It's really fun to be able to read from my room. And also kind of weird that we're separated by thousands of miles.
It is true. It's very weird.
Yeah, I've been having all these weird feelings about like Skype and about like Google Hangouts and just like the fact that you can just totally talk at live, like with no noticeable lag if the programming equipment is good enough. Like you won't feel any lag from anywhere in the world. Like you can talk with someone. I just think that's crazy.
Yeah.
So that was fun, and this is cool. I guess I'll talk to you later. Have fun with the rest of Drift.
Thank you, Mark. And make sure you stop by Zero Station when you come to Portland, Maine on your many travels.
Surely.
Okay. Take care, man. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.